Welcome to the talk show of William Angliss Institute SLIIT. Today I am in the lobby of William Angliss Institute SLIIT. It's a fascinating lobby with a different personality. All this time we were in the studios. Now we are slowly coming out from the studios. We are going outdoor. Now I have a very special guest. Dush Rathnayake is not a stranger to you. Everyone knows who Dush Rathnayake is. Those who are on social media, those who are on YouTube, everyone knows who Dush Rathnayake is. I don't need to introduce Dush. Hello Dush.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
How are you? Iva. So Dush, we'll start our talk show today. Thank you very much for coming all the way from Mount Lavinia to Malawi.
Oh, anytime.
So we'll start your story from Mount Lavinia to Mount Lavinia.
Mount Lavinia. Okay, so he's saying Mount Lavinia because we went to school together.
Yeah,
so,
we went to the same school.
Yeah, so Mount Boys. And yeah, it's an interesting way of putting it. So I did end up back in Mount Lavinia after a very long journey. Okay, where to start? Actually, I think...
We'll start from college days.
Okay.
Then USA.
Okay.
Sri Lanka.
Okay. Wow, that's going to be a long story. Okay, so as soon as I finished college, I went to work at AC Nielsen, which was a market research company. So the AC ratings
That's
company.
soon after A-levels.
That was soon after A-levels, just for pocket money. And then I also went to a place called ITS, which is kind of like ANC now, back in the day. And so transferred from there to the US to a university called Slippery Rock for economics. So that's in Pennsylvania. Okay. So kind of East Coast-ish, yeah. And I realized I didn't like economics, but at the same time I was also applying to other business schools that had more advanced programs. And I ended up at Miami University of Ohio, which gave me a full scholarship, and went to the Richard T. Farmer School of Business over there. But I switched from economics to finance because I realized
So economics to finance? No?
Yeah, okay. yeah. Because I hated economics.
You in your university, you have a story about in Miami.
Story in particular relating to
your university is the oldest university or the oldest?
Oh no. So it is one of the oldest public
building.
No, public Ivy Leagues.
Okay.
And the story was that it's Miami University in Ohio. Everybody thinks Miami is in Florida. So this school, this uni, was actually older than the state of Florida because it's in the Miami Valley. So the Miami Indians were there. So technically Miami is based in Ohio, not in Florida. So it's actually kind of funny that there is a Miami in Florida. That's what everybody knows. So that was the story I was telling. So after I finished up there, I worked at Citigroup. In the USA, in Columbus, which was 3 hours away from the university. Not Colombo, Columbus. So I was still there, worked for about a year and a half, and then the economic crash happened.
This is 2008?
2009. Yeah, so 2008, 2009. And and they hadn't processed my work visa at that point. And it was literally just a week away from them processing it. And then the news comes out that Citibank had borrowed so much money from the bailout funds that were there.
So you're in finance now?
Finance at this point. And so I ended up having to get up and leave, which is perfect timing because, and I think everything happens for a reason, because that was when the war ended in Sri Lanka. And I always wanted to be in Sri Lanka. But honestly, if it was one more year, I would have built a house, I would still be in the US. And I would have probably never gotten into food.
Maybe we would not get Dush here in Sri Lanka, being celebrity social media. Celebrity in social media, I would say.
That is so strange. But no. So I came back, and then I worked at Amber Research, which is another financial company here. And after 2 years, I decided I wanted to get full time. So I did multiple businesses, a couple with friends, several on my own. And then Bellissima seemed to be the formula that worked.
Bellissima? It's a good story to talk.
Yeah, I guess. It's another long story.
Yeah, that's a long story, Bellissima.
Sure.
What is Bellissima?
So Bellissima is a dessert brand. Now we've come to specialize in bottled biscuit puddings in different flavors, and that is what the brand is known for as well, for introducing that to the market. It's very premium.
So you started in 2009?
No. So Bellissima is the brand is 7 years old.
7 years.
The puddings are about 4 years old.
Okay.
So it wasn't always biscuit puddings. It was actually at one point an all-stop dessert store experience, in the sense we had everything from cheesecakes, and we used to make our own cream cheese in-house.
Bars.
Yeah, no, not the bars. So we used to make it in-house. So we used to get curd and we used to.
What I meant was cream cheese bars.
Exactly, but we didn't buy the cream cheese. We made it
on your own.
On our own, and we did the cheesecakes, and then we did cookies and cakes and meringues and what have you, and chocolates and ice creams. And we plan to go back to that, to our roots, and become more diverse. But at the moment, our focus is just biscuit pudding, and that's working.
So now, 2009, you came to Sri Lanka. Then what? This 10 years period.
Okay.
You are moving to a very specialized area. Finance, economics, 2009 recession, and you're coming to Sri Lanka.
Right. So when I came back, what I realized was because I had such an upheaval and I still survived, it was like I became very comfortable with the idea of drastic change. Because it feels a bit like when you have a degree in a certain field and you have a well-paying job and there's career progression, you think you have to stay on that one particular track. But thankfully, because of what happened in the US and me having to come back, I started toying with the idea of, no, what if I want to do food, which is my real passion.
Coming to food.
Exactly. A friend came to me with an idea to start a kottu business. And at the time, the most well-known places were Pilavus and Plaza. And the most mind-blowing kottu you could get was the one that you added cheese. And the only other variation was like you had the curry chicken or the roast chicken, and that was like pretty much you call it a day, right? So what we did was, and it was I think a bit ahead of its time, because we wanted to do like really fancy kottus. So one was like a cheeseburger kottu from like the US. So we wanted to do like different like regionalized kottus. So one was the cheeseburger, so you have like minced beef.
So now we are coming to the food element.
Slowly. So slowly, but no, it is a bit of a leap because now we've started a restaurant. It wasn't like even that we were cooking at home and testing the waters. We literally went out, got a space, we're starting a business. And it was one of the most difficult restaurant models we could have done, because finding kottu bosses and keeping them happy, and they go home, they never come back. Lots of problems. So it was very, very, we were thrown straight into the fire, where we jumped into the fire, more like nobody threw us in. And then, so yes, we had this cheeseburger thing where we had minced beef with the cheese sauce and fresh lettuce and tomato, and it literally tasted in a kottu form, and it tasted exactly like a cheeseburger. And then we did like a Singapore chili crab version, and so many different, but wrong place, wrong time, wrong market. So this is why the P's in marketing really matter. And then we modified it, but still we did like a few kottus that were out of the ordinary. So we did like a barbecued sausage kottu, barbecue chicken kottu. There was a cuttlefish one. And then there were lots of other businesses who started doing the similar type of thing. And it was an exciting time. We did it for about a year, but we sold the business to a guy named Terence, who continued it for several other years. From the kottu business, then I realized, because I was still working at my full-time job, I realized that you can't do two things at once. There's no way. And if you want it to succeed, you have to commit to it, even if it's scary. So I left my job, started a place called Juice Bar, which was this juices.
Juices.
So when I started that, and the thing was, I'm very big on aesthetics, and you would probably realize that looking at Bellissima as well. And this looked really nice. Again, it was the wrong place, because this is down Ramakrishna Road in Vidyarathna, and it wasn't the right market. So it was misaligned, but somebody saw our place from the Goethe Institute. And their catering unit, they've just lost their vendor, and they wanted us to take over because they really like what we had done with Juice Bar. So I took that on as well, but then trying to juggle two became a nightmare. So I closed down Juice Bar, and we kept that other business running, and called it Cafe Eclectic. So there I got to do more stuff than just one thing. I would just go through our juices. We did a whole bunch of stuff, and this was really where I think I had time. It was a cocoon for me to explore, and I really honed my skills during that time.
So two different areas. One was food, now in beverage.
Food, beverage, and now this is a mix. And each model is different, because now we needed a service component. Because earlier it was you give the product and you go. So it's slowly evolving, and I'm becoming more and more comfortable. So did that for about 3 to 4 years, and then left and started another place called Cafe Delish.
Yeah.
And during the time I was at the William Institute, I also started selling hot dogs at the LAN event.
Okay.
So pretty much been the kottu guy, the hot dog guy, the juice guy, now the pudding guy. Bellissima started while I was there.
No, but you are very famous for in the social media context.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I couldn't have predicted. I mean, that's just, I think, draw of the luck. I think people, hopefully, I think they like what I do, so they follow and they recommend. And it's, and the thing is, I don't do any kind of, I don't try to gain the following by, I don't even do paid advertisements. I mean, if people like it and they recommend it, it's just completely organic growth. Because otherwise, I see no point. It's not this a numbers game. Like I have this many followers, and actually, I mean, it could be significantly more. But I really think I just want people who are really interested and are there genuinely on their own volition. Exactly.
Today, discussion point is all about modern cooking in the digitized world. Dush is the best person to talk about it. How we'll have to work in the modern life, in the modern kitchen, and with the technology. So, Dush, what is your experience in that?
It's funny, and it's a really good question because I never had to actually actively think about it before. But if I look at any aspect of my business or even my personal branding with my cooking channel, there's no way I can decouple technology at any point. I mean, literally everything would cease to exist, from my business to my...
When it comes to you as a personality, and you're very famous in YouTube, also famous in social media, it's just because of this cooking episodes. So
yes.
That's the main...
So like you said, knowing how to navigate the digital platforms is very important. And I think I was blessed enough to tie up with a company that really knows what they're doing. So the production house is called Idea Health. And so they know how to position the channel and get it across to the audience. And it also gives the production itself a lot of credibility. So that's what. So you need to, if you don't know how to do it yourself, it's very important that you partner up or collaborate with people who do, because it is a lot of effort to, if you're talking about the cooking show, to put
so
one
when it comes to
together.
this cooking show, but Sri Lanka, it kind of very new shows, right? People, very few people are doing it.
Right.
So why do you want to go into social media instead of other media platforms?
Well, for the longest time, I did want to be on television, and because I had this stigma about, I don't want to be. Okay, so this is a long story, kind of.
Long story short.
So in my head, I used to always look at shows like American Idol, and the trend I saw was people come up through reality shows or these competitions, and it's a big hype at the time you win or you compete, and. But looking back, in hindsight, there's very few who have sustained their careers. So I was always, so for me, people who get discovered on YouTube back then kind of seemed to have a similar trajectory. So I was always worried that I didn't want to burn out. And I thought the people who had the most credibility were people who had long time, like syndicated shows, like Nigel on BBC or Jamie Oliver, and and those were the big dogs, right? And everybody around the world, not just in their countries, knew who they were.
So your audience is so big.
And traditional in a sense, because this is the TV watching crowd, and having a company like BBC for them, backing them up, gives them a lot of credibility. Right? So I thought, okay, like locally, if it's one of the main channels and I could get a show, and I did a show, but it wasn't a cooking show, and I think I came to William Angliss as part of it.
2014.
So I was doing like a food review show.
With Peter Kuruvita.
That was with Peter Kuruvita when he came down, and that particular episode. So it was a 3-part series, and that was the launch of my show. And that was nerve-wracking because I've never done TV before, and I was thrown into deep end. Oh my goodness!
It's very interesting now. Countries like us, we think cooking it's always like it's back-end work, no preference to cooking and things like that. So now we are taking cooking into the technology and working with technology. You are not changing anything in the kitchen, but you just, the matter of taking this into the world is different. So tell us about with experience, how do you see, what are your critiques from your audience?
Right.
I see a lot of comments from your YouTube channel. It's actively participating. You are responding to them. They are responding to you. So
So that interactivity is very important. And the thing is, the great thing about being on digital platforms is that people who resonate with what you do gravitate to it.
Okay.
So you're catering to your co-audience. So that's the thing. Again, now if it was on TV, it will be whoever happened to be in front of the television at that point. They may or they may not like it. Now here you have active crowd that's seeking you out. So it's like-minded people, and so you either get encouragement, and then also there are people who just want to just say something negative. But so it's again. Positioning yourself is very important, and that is very hard to explain.
So you came to a very interesting point here. Now, your shows are in Sinhalese and English both.
Yes.
Mostly other channels, either you find it in Sinhalese, in this context in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Why you want to have both languages?
So this is the thing. So it is actually a problem.
I know that you can speak both languages.
So the thing is, I don't want to alienate either crowd, and it's very hard to do it in Singlish, just because again the same problem happens, and you're immediately alienating two crowds. So you either keep it purely in Sinhala or purely in English. But we're toying with the idea of whether making one channel purely Sinhala or English, and then over time introducing the other language. So we still haven't figured out which it is, because we're catering to completely different audiences. And my personal goal is I realize outside of Colombo is a bit of a bubble. And the food culture is very different to outside into the rest of Sri Lanka. So my life's goal is to kind of bridge, is to bridge that gap and to get everybody on the same page. So I don't talk down to my viewers, and I don't assume, like, even if it's something they may not know, I just say it as it is, and I don't try to dumb it down or anything. Because it's
that's what I noticed. It's very natural, It's not very scripted or anything. It's very natural. Whatever comes to your mouth, you just put it.
No, and even my recipes, it might be ingredients they don't have access to outside of the metropolitan areas. But it's important that they know that there are stuff like that, because it's a whole different world of flavors than they're probably used to. So now the whole idea of doing it in English is that I have a huge network outside of Sri Lanka, my friends and friends of friends, and now they don't understand Sinhala at all. So I want to keep them engaged as well, and also educate people who are not from Sri Lanka about our cuisine. So it's a very difficult balancing act, and I think I need to at some point focus. Am I going to, is it going to be more about getting everybody on the same page here, or is it about exposing people outside to Sri Lankan food? So I haven't still made a call on it. I need to decide soon.
Other point, what I saw in your channel, you got it social media influencers like Dino and Blok, right? So again, is it positioning, or it's just you wanted to feature in your show?
Well, I mean, I've known both of them separately. For a very long time. I used to move around in the same circles. So Dino used to run into me. So Dino's brother actually used to be a huge fan of one of my first businesses called Juice Bar. And he dragged Dino over and was like, have this juice. So this is like 30 years ago. So then we've been running into each other on and off, and we've stayed friends. And then Gehan, I've known his ex, not Shazia, but his ex used to work with me at the same company. So through that, I knew of Gehan, and then we used to be at the same gym when I used to work out, not anymore. And I used to see him around. So, and also because he was in the theatre scene, I used to see him around. At the event and all. So I was like, hi, Machan, that level. But then recently there was an event before our shoot, and then apparently Gehan was a huge fan of the white chocolate biscuit pudding that we do. And then he wanted it for his wedding. And he was also like, well, shall we do a show together?
Why not?
And it was magic. Like, honestly, those guys are brilliant. And I didn't think, I knew how much pull their brands have, but it was over. I think the video has over 500,000 views, which is nothing compared to the videos that they do themselves.
Correct.
But still, that's
because that video is very. It's an epic one. It has comics, and then you make food, then we're bringing people together, also critiques. But it's something that Sri Lanka misses.
In the sense?
In the sense, that type of a show, it misses.
Yeah. Actually, if I could do like a running show with the two of them, I mean, for sure. Because it was more about entertainment than even actually cooking, and that's really what cooking needs to be.
But it goes in line with cooking and how we'll have to look at the future.
Yeah, make it fun and accessible. And are you talking about the platform or just the way in which
the context, I would say.
Yeah, because it was great. Because neither of them are cooks per se, so they had questions that I would never think of. and I think in like joking and talking about it, like it came out, and I was like, oh, so maybe even when I'm describing in future, maybe certain things are not so obvious. So maybe I need to explain more.
Yeah. So Dush, I know you from the college days. I love to hear your hobbies.
Hobbies.
Because you are a bubbly personality. Back in the day, you were doing theatre, literature, and so much. So that's what I know.
Yeah.
But you
have many hobbies. I've tried everything at some point. Yeah. Like so, because my dad used to collect stamps, I used to collect stamps. So I was in the Filtering Society as well in school. Yeah. I don't know where any of my stamps are anymore, and I had to go back and look. Yeah. So cooking, I suppose, was a hobby. I don't think I can call it a hobby anymore. Now that's work. I love movies.
So let's say passion made possible?
Passion made possible, exactly. And it wasn't so fun at the start. It was very difficult, but it's good that it was a passion because that helped me stick at it. I think if I didn't like what I did, I would have given up a long time ago.
So only collecting stamps?
No, and then movies and not into sports too much, but I do like tennis.
Still, you like movies? Yeah?
Oh, I'm a huge movie buff.
So what's the genre?
Horror is my favorite. And I get very jumpy, and people hate watching it with me because I'm like a girl. Like I just scream. Okay, girls don't get mad, but a very high pitched scream. But I'm not in real life. People try to scare me in real life. It doesn't work. But something being on the screen, and I don't like things coming at me from the side, so that makes me very jumpy.
So music,
music.
What?
Oh, that's very, very difficult because I like almost everything other than maybe really hardcore jazz and hardcore rap, maybe. Other than that, I mean, but again, there are rap songs and jazz songs that I like. But yeah, I guess if it tends to fall outside my
vicinity.
Yeah, it's probably those. Yeah.
How about sports?
So I played table tennis throughout, but I think I prefer playing tennis. Yeah, haven't played in years.
Play tennis now?
No. My brother was the sporty one. I was the nerd. Yeah. But if I had to take up a new sport, let's see. What would I like to learn? I like swimming. Not very good at it, but I do really like swimming.
Now, interestingly, I want you to talk about your theatrical experience.
Sure. So I did acting school. Yeah. I think my first, actually, I owe a lot to theatre because I think my personality developed so much because of theatre. And it's funny because I think my mother had such a hang up about me doing theatre. And I think she was worried that it's so bad, it's so stereotypical. So she was probably worried that I was going to turn out gay if I did theatre. But she wanted me to never do theatre. But then my parents died when I was 16. And I took to theatre. I actually did play the role of Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet in the Shakespeare competitions. Okay. And I couldn't understand why I was cast in that role because Mercutio is a very rambunctious, outgoing character, and that's.
But that suits you.
You think so now, but I was very, very quiet in school. Exactly, I was very introverted, and so basically, and that's Romeo's cousin, who helps him meet Juliet, and he's the one who's cracking jokes, always, like the life of the party, and it was really the opposite of myself. Yeah. And the thing is, I really
back in the day.
Back in the day.
Not now.
Not now. That's the thing. I think slowly over time, I became more like Mercutio. Yeah. And when I played that role, I felt so comfortable playing it. I'm like, you know what? I really like this character. I could be this character. and in some ways, it unlocked me. Yeah. So I owe a lot to theatre because that really, I don't know, exposed my true personality maybe. And I got to explore who I was. And it's fun. So I think theatre is very, very enabling.
Building
and also
a character, no?
Personality, and also it helps you discover yourself, which I didn't expect in the process. And this was just like high school theatre, right? So I'm not even like professional theatre. And then I kept doing plays in school. And then when I went to the US, I was doing a finance degree, but thankfully, so the way the university programs are structured there, you have to do so many different like liberal arts subjects apart from your core subject. My university, Miami University in Ohio, took it a step further where you had to do a thing called a thematic sequence, which is kind of like a minor. And so I couldn't decide between botany and theatre, so I did both. I finished up the botany one, but I went almost all the way with theatre as well. So as a part of that, I did a couple of productions there, which were quite high budget. And funnily enough, there was a Sri Lankan part in the play. But I didn't get it.
Sinhalese part.
In Sinhala, actually, but it was a girl's part. So I had to teach the girl how to speak Sinhala, and there were actual Sinhala lines in it, and I was like, wow.
What is the theatre?
So I can't remember what the theatre was called, but the play was called Pentecost. Yeah, it's about a bunch of refugees who are stuck in a church, and the visual effects. Wow, like it was amazing. But I played an Afghan who lived in Turkey and Russia. So very good.
Very weird.
I had a beard maybe, so maybe I look like a terrorist. So then after that, I got into a little bit of TV there because they had like a town TV station. So started dabbling in it. Loved it. Actually,
So dubbing or just
no. Actually,
presenting?
Not presenting. So that was actually like short stories and stuff. So we used to because. So they all kind of worked in tandem, like the theatre department and the TV station and all these elements in the university. So the kids would send scripts over, and then they'll have acting students act it out, and then they'll air it. So you have the broadcasting students who are learning the technical part. So it was all run by students basically doing the degrees. So so that's how I got comfortable even doing TV. And then finally, presenting here.
Presenting in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, for MTV Sports at the time. Then it became Channel 1, and now I'm not sure what it's called. But that's... so I had my own show for that. That was Dine and Unwind.
So, Dush, now we were talking about your career, we were talking about the hobbies. Now I want to see the particular interest towards this food business.
So I didn't think of the food industry per se.
Food business, I would say.
Yeah. Even as a business, like I started cooking when I was 7. So the story is, we were such big foodies. So we used to always.
So I let me interrupt you for a while. Every show what you have, you mention about your grandmother. This is my grandmother's recipe. This is my grandmother's recipe. Why this grandmother?
I think everybody pretty much starts with their mom or their grandmother, no, at some point. No, but it's not that I learned anything from my grandmother, funnily enough, but she inspired me.
All your recipes are unique to you. I figured this out, all your grandmother's recipe that you are replicating it.
No. So it was just one biryani recipe, but that also from memory because I don't have any of her recipes. I've lost all her written. She had like books and books of recipes, but we've shifted so many times and I've lost it. And the time I was old enough to really, that I would have been old enough to absorb anything she could have taught me, she was bedridden. So she didn't get a chance to teach me because I know if I asked her, she would have taught me everything she knew. And that's why it's kind of sacred because I really am quite acutely aware of the wealth of knowledge I missed that I could have learned from my grandmother. But just watching her, I've learned a lot of how she does things and how she's organized and just her passion. I think that's what ignited me because she loved cooking.
I said food. You said at the beginning, food is not a business. Food is not an industry. For you,
for me,
for you, what do you think?
It wasn't. Well, now it's very much a business for me. So because it was, like I said, like a hobby. Not even a hobby. Like it was such a part of me that I didn't even think about it. It's not like, oh, this weekend I'm going to plan a meal. It's just like I just whip up whatever I feel like. So I started cooking because I wanted to eat chili paste. Because every Friday night, and I think I hacked this story to death, but we used to get it from Flower Drum. We used to have Chinese takeaway, and that was my first memory of like takeaway food.
Okay.
Actually, even the first words I read was off their takeaway pack. And I remember Take Me Home. And I read it. And I remember this because my grandmother and my mother freaked out. Because my grandmother thought my mother taught me how to read it, and my mother thought it was my grandmother. And I just read it, and they're like, "Oh, that's sweet. Did you teach him that?" And I was like, "No." I said, "Wait, how? What? He just read it?" And so that was my first sentence I ever read, was off the takeaway pack. And then the chili paste. So I used to steal the chili paste. It used to come in a yogurt cup and just eat. At like 5 years old. And nobody knew what I was doing. And when they found out, they freaked out. And they were like, shit, like this kid is going to die. After eating chili paste, And then they stopped bringing Chinese so often. And even when they did, no chili paste. So then by the time I turned 7, so 2 years after, they started putting the ingredients on that.
So now it's quite interesting and impressive your career. So you started with economics, finance, research, then marketing, then cooking, and so what is your line of interest?
Line of interest. That's the thing. I'm very easily stimulated. Like I find a lot of things interesting. And if I wasn't doing this, I would have liked to have been an architect maybe, or interior decorator, or if not that, I wanted to be an astronomer, not an astronaut like most kids. So I didn't want to fly off to space. I wanted to observe the stars. So there's like no, and then I wanted to be a barber at one point. So there is no
connectivity
at all. So this is whatever I find interesting.
That is your most interesting.
Obviously, food. Yeah, and it's the most natural.
Just because you are foodie, or?
Mainly because I love to eat, and it really gets my juices flowing. Because I only realize the scope of
cooking,
not just cooking, but whatever's out there in the world, like how much we don't know, was when I went to college. And so I used to volunteer at the international office and be like an ambassador for new students coming in. So I would show them around, and so we were like their mentors. So more than half of them used to end up at my apartment at some point to hang out. And all these kids, so they are from all over the world.
In the USA,
In the USA, yeah. And they would share their grandparents or their aunts or uncles' recipes, and then it just shook my picture of what the mental image I had of certain types of cuisines. Because, like, you say Italian, you think pasta and pizza, right? Or German food, you think sausages and potatoes, right? But then I realized there's so much more to it than that, and I was like, shit, I don't know anything.
When we were having casual chat, Dush was talking about Sri Lankan food, taking it to the international level, especially the mung kaum or whatever, how you make it.
Not necessarily kaum, but there's so much to share, because thankfully I think people are becoming more aware, and you can see, like, even in the Australian MasterChef cooking shows, there's a lot of Sri Lankans now, from the little kid Georgina, who won. That's amazing. And there was D, and then before that there was I forget his name, but there was a Tamil gentleman who did really well in one of those competitions as well. Bald guy. And he did a lot of like Tamil food. So which was nice, because it's always kottu and a few elements that I highlighted, but so this is amazing. So there is a little bit of traction that's happening, and then of course there are chefs like Peter Kuruvita, who's like taking it out there. Darshan, of course, with Ministry of Crab now, that's in India and Maldives and all over, exactly. So exactly, so there's a huge army of people doing a lot of great work, but we still need more momentum, but it's still not mainstream enough. It's not like a Chinese food or at the level of Japanese food. Like, not everybody is familiar with Sri Lankan food. So I would like to see it get there. Because if you tell it to somebody who doesn't know, they'll think it's just like Indian food, which it's not.
Which is not.
So
you are not a stranger to William Angliss Institute SLIIT. What is your impression about the school?
Oh, I'm highly taken up, because I think there are very few specialized culinary programs. There's a lot of hotel schools.
Yes.
But as for well-fleshed out culinary programs, there aren't very many. I mean, there are, and this is definitely right there at the top. And I remember, like the fact that you do these programs, that even way back then, when you had Peter Kuruvita, that you get industry experts to come in, and that there's a connectivity between education and industry, which unfortunately, it's very lacking in our state sector when it comes to universities.
Correct.
So this is very practical. It aligns people. And see, even this, I mean, it's not very many universities that would do something like this. And that's what's needed to be current and have those touch points, because you can't study in a vacuum. And
you see, is it the investment or of the campus?
Facilities?
Yeah.
No, you can throw all the money you want at something. It's not. It's just having the right mindset and curating it properly.
Yeah, I wanted to have that learning from you. So we are very much.
Well, it's very true. It's genuinely what I feel about the place. Yeah.
So now we all are facing for a global pandemic. How do you see this pandemic? What will be the future of our...
Good Lord, I wish I knew. And this is the scary thing. How do you navigate something that you've never faced, that no one has ever faced? And well, I wouldn't say no end in sight. Thankfully, with all the vaccines coming in, hopefully there is an end in sight. Maybe sometime next year we find things stabilizing. The great thing is we're finding ways to operate even with the crisis situation. And that's great. I think humans will always find solutions. We'll always make it work. And if you really think about it, maybe this was the kick in the bum we needed to start innovating. Actually,
creativity, innovations.
Yeah. You know, if you look at all the major innovations that happened, it was always during war times. Right? During World War I, World War II, and now here is a new thread, and we come together, pool in our collective resources
minds together,
and then we are forced. Invention really is the mother. Sorry, necessity is the mother of invention, for sure. And we can see. So it's interesting enough. I saw the CEOs of Daras and Kapruka talking about how their platform has just taken flight, because there are so many people shopping online now, which forced. Interesting, you know, the reason why China is so tech heavy and there's so much online and how Alibaba took off was because of the avian flu that happened in China. Right, and so the similar situation, and that shifted them into like a tech age where everybody was fine with e-commerce. So now we find it happening here, and I think maybe this is the global shift we needed to. And now we can see people working from home, which, like, even where I used to work in finance, it was not even something that was entertained. That one thing, because of all the secrecy that we had to maintain for the clients, nobody was allowed to take even a piece of paper home. And now everybody has to work from home. There's no choice, and you realize it can work. And then just think about the impact on pollution and the personal stress too, because you can take a nap if you want. You can't do that at work, right? And you can work on your own time. You can get things done, and actually people work harder when they're at home. So my brother actually says he actually prefers going to office because he gets to clock out at a certain time and he gets to take his lunch break. When he's working from home, he forgets to eat until dinner time, until he gets things done. So actually companies, maybe might want everybody to work from home.
So Dush, finally, I would like to thank you coming here for my episodes, and I would like to hear your message out there.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And my message would be, stay hopeful, and if you are interested in the field that's relevant to me, I would say there's going to be a bright future, definitely, once we get past all of this. So don't lose hope. If this is your passion, if this is the industry you want to be in, this is not the end of it. And actually it might be a very exciting time to be here, because there's many ways you can reach customers, because I know people who have lost their traditional jobs, and and living in a place like Sri Lanka, sometimes we are forced into jobs that we don't want to do by our parents or by society, just because getting into cooking food may not appeal to a lot of people's sensibilities. Now you have probably an excuse to cook up something and get it on Uber Eats or start a restaurant, if that's really a passion, under the pretext that, well, we are locked together, so here's your chance. And actually I've seen that. I've seen a lot of businesses just flourish, and a lot of new creative ideas, especially like just on the Uber Eats platform. I'm just amazed at the creativity that people are showcasing, and this, I'm guessing these people wouldn't have had an opportunity or the time before. So in a way, there's a huge shift, and as much as things look bleak, there is a definite flip side to this that's that is bringing out talent. So there you have it.
Thank you, Dush, for coming all the way here for our talk show. We look forward to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for watching. It was a very different episode, all in all. We were talking about food in the digitized world and how do we take the technology into food and how do you use technology for the future betterment. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward for another episode. Thank you.